Hey, this is Henry Sanders back with another daily episode of Real Talk, keeping you updated what's going on with the COVID-19. We also want to thank our sponsors at Park Bank. Thank you for everything you're doing and keeping us going here. We have our guest who's been coming to us every Monday to give us an update, and we thank you for that. How are you doing, Lieutenant Governor Barnes?
I'm doing all right. Had a very relaxed weekend. In general terms, as far as didn't get to go anywhere, didn't do my usual food tour that I do on Easter. So kept it inside. And how about yourself?
It was good. This was the first Easter that I have never been with my parents ever. So that was a little brutal. That was tough. Luckily I have a wife and kids at home, but it was tough. Yeah. So the elections were last week. What are you hearing? Are you hearing the results should be coming back soon? I'm hearing. What are you hearing? Did you hear good, bad, and ugly about it?
Yeah, so the results should be in about just under an hour, actually. You just hear general frustration, man. People are stressed out. The election shouldn't have taken place anyway. And, whatever the outcome is, there's going to be a cloud hanging over the results and over whoever is the victor, especially in a race that ends up being really contested, that's decided by a few percentage points. You got to imagine that people are going to want to take legal action there, and why wouldn't you? Because to have even had the election take place last Tuesday is very irresponsible.
Yeah, well, I think I've heard are some lawsuits already in place already. Have you heard any lawsuits going on already?
Yeah, I heard about one, but you have to imagine that more are on the way. I mean, I looked at the Election Commission website just to see the status, and it's not updated for me whether my ballot was even received on time or not. I know, I talked to my dad last week, and he did get his absentee ballot in on time, but it was just in the nick of time. And, his thought process was just that, he was not going to go there in person. So, I applaud him for that, but, just to see the amount of people who had to make that choice, or whether they were going to vote or whether they were going to protect their health and safety, that position that many people were needlessly put in, it ultimately worked to subvert democracy.
Well, that's sad. We just hope that people came out of that healthy, right? So let's just pray for the best for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the governor reported, I believe today, that we had 23 deaths on Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday and Monday we had 10 deaths. Still 10 deaths, right? I mean, there's still 10 people who've passed and gone away. However, at least it looks like we're moving in the right direction. Do you think things are flatlining a little bit?
I mean, we can only hope that things are getting better. And what that means is when you see signs of improvement, that means keep doing what you're doing. That doesn't mean switch it up and go back to what was going on in the first place. I mean, that shows another level of irresponsibility as well. It's like those Amir Lightfoot memes that say your shot was always weak anyway. Well, yeah, it's because people don't follow through. You can't just throw something in the air and just and hope it sticks and walk away. You have to see this thing through all the way to a state where we are seeing 0 deaths. That's the goal.
Right. Yeah, and that is the goal. And again, like I think you said last time, the warmer it gets, more people are going to want to be outside. I was even shocked that the neighborhood I live in, there was almost a little block party. 30 people were out on Friday hanging out together. I couldn't believe it. So it shows some people are taking it seriously and some people are not. At least we're in the right direction, right? What are you hearing about testing? Is testing becoming more easy for people to get? Or, I've heard some horror stories about, especially in Milwaukee, about people trying to get testing and they're having a hard time, even doctors or people even saying they deserve the test.
Yeah, it's still a tough time for that. We still got to work to build capacity. Our capacity is better than it was on the front end, but there's still definitely room for improvement. And that's just, again, that's not just here in Wisconsin. That's all over the place where we need to do more work with different members in private industry to help us meet the need, to help us build that capacity so that we can get every person a test that needs one. And, like I said before, it may have been even on here a couple of weeks ago where I said, one of the unfortunate things is, yes, you should test people with symptoms, but that does make it a little bit more difficult because people with symptoms, you can rule out one of, 2 or 3 things. You can diagnose by, just kind of disqualifying other things. Like if you can tell that it's not the flu, if it's not pneumonia, chances are it is probably COVID-19. And it is that kind of, testing in that way, it leaves out the people who are asymptomatic. And I think that we do need to build up capacity here nationwide for folks who are asymptomatic, because that is ultimately how, disease is in my opinion, which you could take it with a grain of salt, is how it's spreading. Because, somebody is exhibiting symptoms, chances are, you're not going to be around those people. And if we can get anybody who may be displaying symptoms to just automatically self-quarantine in general, because even if it is the flu, you don't want to be around folks. But we have to, figure out those asymptomatic people and how do we get more testing for people who've had those contacts.
Yeah. Do you think the testing, it sounds like it's more of a capacity issue? You're saying that the more tests we have available, the more people get tested. Do you, as everyone nationwide is competing for this, right? So everyone's trying to figure out how to get more tests available. So it's not just a Wisconsin issue.
Not at all.
Is there a strategy that the governor, that you and the governor can do to try to get more tests, or to just wait and see sort of?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, we, the governor went into partnership, went to a public-private partnership to increase the amount of tests and also medical equipment that would be available for people here in the state. And, there's been, increases. Things have gotten better, but we still, we want to be best. So there's some way to go there.
Oh, I didn't know that. He went into private-public partnership. That's great.
Yeah. That was maybe 2 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Oh, that's great. So tell me, you've been going through this about 3 weeks now. Tell me what you're feeling the most optimistic about, and what are you feeling the most frustration around right now when it comes to all this, the elections, COVID-19, et cetera.
Right. So I guess I'm most optimistic about, while there are still some bad actors, people who aren't adhering to the guidelines, you kind of have to factor that in and figure that's going to happen. But for the most part, people are doing their part and people are taking it seriously. I think that's what I'm optimistic about, is that people understand it for the threat that it actually is. What's frustrating is the fact that it's taken so long for the legislature to meet. What's frustrating is the fact that that election went on and there will be lawsuits that we shouldn't even have had to get into in the first place because the election shouldn't have happened. And I think those are the two biggest things that are stressing me out right now. And then the people who are calling, just for this immediate reopening of the economy, as if, a whole bunch of sick people are going to make for a strong economy. That's not the case. If everybody's out there getting sick and the disease is spreading even more rapidly because, it was in certain people's financial interest to do so. And the thing about that, too, is reopening the economy. Again, that means the economy is going to be reopened on the same vulnerable backs that it's always been open on. Hard working people. You look at our essential workers right now, and I bring this up all the time. These are the people that aren't making a whole lot of money. These are the people that don't get a whole lot of benefits, who are working day to day and who are still struggling. And reopening the economy means that we will be putting even more of those people in jeopardy.
Well, I think there's political gaming going on right now, but again, we always have to put people first, and from my perspective. And do you think there's a certain timeline on when you think you and the governor will actually start to say that the state's in a position to really move in the right direction, that we can start even thinking about reopening? Do you have some metrics that you're thinking around that would?
Yeah, those kind of decisions are based on the science, and they're also based on the mathematics, because you look at the trends and which direction this is headed. Once we see ourselves on the other side of this hill, once we see that curve start to be flattened and we see ourselves getting to a much better place, I think that's when we have those conversations to project when it is likely that we can get the economy fully reopened. Like, trust me, I mean, I miss doing things myself. Like, this is not like we're just asking people to sacrifice some things that we aren't. Like, I'm up like Summerfest, like, any other fest that's going on in Milwaukee, like everything else, the farmers markets. It's spring. It's starting to be springtime. Like, there are so many activities I would love to be doing right now. These guidelines aren't put in place because it's fun to do so. Like, these are compromises that we're all making.
Well, and lastly, but before
the people who are yelling the most, a lot of people who are yelling the most about it, talking about our rights and our freedoms are being infringed upon. These are people who are probably doing the least. I got a lot of stuff I want to do.
I hear you, brother. I hear you. So, before we go, what do you want people to know about what you and the governor are doing right now to deal with this issue and the COVID-19 issue moving forward? And before we go, also, what are you watching now? You gave me Tiger King. Is it Treme?
Yep.
Treme, which I haven't gotten to yet, but I will. And what are you watching now on Netflix?
So I finished Treme. It was a really good story. And so think about Treme too. And so like it has a level of drama from The Wire. And like I said, David Simon wrote a whole bunch of the same actors from The Wire. So it has that the element of drama. But it also has this huge cultural component with the New Orleans music and food. And that's because Anthony Bourdain was a part of the show as well. So it's like this mixture of culture and the drama, which is why I think it's a really good show. But I have I've gone back to start watching Community. I've only caught a couple episodes of it before, so now I started Community from the beginning.
I never even heard of Community. That's a series or something?
Yeah.
I never even heard of it.
Yeah, it's a series. It had Donald Glover in it, and also was watching The Hunters on Amazon.
Yeah, and I watched that. I watched The Hunters, which that's intense.
Okay.
That's intense.
Yeah, it was super intense. I'm at like episode 4. It's very intense.
Oh, yeah, it's really good. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
And how about those 100 push-ups, man? How many you got in so far? About 10, 15?
Oh,
what you got in?
No, I didn't do any today. I'll catch up. I can assure you I'll catch up.
Yeah.
This you can be sure of.
All right. I know you're a man of your word. I trust you. Hey, so thanks for everything you're doing. We'll check in with you again this week. I'd be interested what the elections are, and we'll probably follow up if we get the results and see what you think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But thanks for everything, Lieutenant Governor. Stay healthy, and we wish you well, and we'll see you next time.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
All right, take care. And thank you for another episode of Real Talk. We'll see you next time.